Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. My name is Xiaohu Zhang. I am a graduating PhD student in North Carolina State University. Today I will be presenting my paper, HandLock, Enabling Second Factor Authentication for Smart Home Voice Assistants using Inaudible Acoustic Signal. This paper is co-authored with my advisor, Professor Anand Das. Let us start with the motivation of this study. Smart home voice assistants like Amazon, Echo, and Google Home have been widespread adopted in recent years. Consumers can use these VAs to not only listen to music and flash news, but also control other smart devices and shop online. However, one of the major security concerns with current VAs is the limited support for authentication. Other than simple customized wake words like Alexa or Hi Google, there is not much support for authentication in VAs. VAs can provide the capacity to recognize different users based on their voice profile. However, such approach has been shown to be vulnerable to simple reply attacks. Other features include using voice-based PIN codes to restrict recentive operations, such as a voice-based online order. Again, the PIN code has to be spoken out aloud and could be passive eavesdropping. In this paper, we introduce a hand gesture-based biometric authentication scheme called HandLock that can recognize and authorize the user based on his or her hand movement. To this end, HandLock emits inaudible acoustic signals and records reflect signal to identify a user. The underlying hypothesis for HandLock is that it's possible to distinguish different users even if they perform the same hand gesture due to their differing physical biometrics. As shown in this figure, since the length of the ulna and humerus of given user is fixed, the starting and the end position of the hand stay the same, no matter how fast the user moves the hand. Therefore, we have in the insight, the phase shift recorded on the received acoustic signal is significantly different for different users, even if they perform the same hand gesture. Several studies have been conducted to authenticate users on mobile phones and wearable IoT devices, leveraging embedded or wearable sensors and Wi-Fi signals. YID extracts the speed time series featured from Wi-Fi channel data information to identify users. We also collects the body surface vibration of the user via a wearable motion sensor and correlates the data with the speech signal recorded by the voice assistant microphone to achieve continuous authentication. However, existing defenses do not provide a practical solution as they either rely on external hardware or work under very constrained settings. Unlike other approaches, HandLock shows its advantages. HandLock does not require any additional hardware and operates device-free. There are several technical challenges in building an acoustic sensing system to differentiate an individual's hand gesture. First, the time series of acoustic phase introduced by the hand is noisy mixed with ambient noise, DC offset, caused by microphone imperfection, and motor path propagation caused by human body and surrounding movement. To tackle these challenges, we propose a new quadratic-based phase extraction approach to remove the noise. Next, as gesture can be performed at different speeds, we need to account for the changing in speed to make all hand speeds consistent for each user. Lastly, we need to select meaningful features to recognize predefined gesture performed by different users. Next, let's take a look at the overview of the proposed system. HandLock consists of 5 main components: signal sensing, signal processing, feature extraction, user modeling, and verification. In the signal sensing phase, as soon as the VA enters a sensitive operation, such as confirming an online purchase, the embedded speaker of the VA devices promotes the user to perform a hand gesture and starts emits inaudible continuous wave signal. The microphone array on the VA simultaneously starts recording the inaudible sound as the user performs a gesture over the VA. Next, In the signal processing phase, the received signal is first processed by IQ modulation. Next, we extract the phase shift from the Q trace and divide the phase signal into small segments that contain the hand movements. These signal segments are then passed through a feature extraction process. After that, we use this feature to train machine learning classifier for different settings, like a single user or multiple user authentication. Lastly, HandLock uses the developer machine learning classifier to distinguish a known user from a set of unknown users. To make our system unobtrusive, the acoustic signal emitted by the VA is made inaudible. Therefore, HandLock uses sound waves with a frequency higher than 60 kHz, which are inaudible to most people and supported by commercial off-the-shelf voice assistant devices. We transmit and record audio signal at 48 kHz. Next, to improve acoustic sensing capacity, we use a multiple carrier frequency of inaudible signal of cosine 2π ft to improve phase detection, to ensure that there is no interference of Doppler shift caused by two sources of signal of varying frequencies, with a frequency interval of 400 Hz. This figure illustrates the recorded signal when we use 16 different source frequencies with an interval of 400 Hz. The sound pressure was observed to be 80 dB when the signal amplitude A is set to 1. To reduce the loudness of the emitted signal to 50 dB, we set A to 0.5. The pipeline to derive I and Q signal is shown in this figure. The received signal is A prime cosine 2π ft plus phi. Here, phi represents phase shift, including mode pass effect and hand movement. We first multiply it with the transmitted signal cosine 2π ft and its phase shift version minus sine 2π ft. We then use a low-pass filter to filter out frequency greater than 24 kHz and get the corresponding design I and Q traces. The filtered signal is then downsampled by a factor of 100 to reduce the system computation overheads. That is, the sampling frequency is decreased from 48 kHz to 480 Hz. The left figure shows the corresponding IQ signals after performing a Z gesture. However, due to hardware imperfection, the center of the recorded signal is not around 0 as shown in the right figure. In order to extract phase change, we propose a quadrature-based phase extraction approach. Specifically, we use two numeric Q signal value. We derive the relative phase change through this equation. Here, phi represents phase shift 2π fdt divided c plus delta. 2π fdt divided c represents the phase delay, where dt is the distance the hand moves. C is the speed of sound. Delta represents phase shift caused by a hand movement. Since Q equal to dc offset plus a sine phi, we remove the dc offset in step 1. Step 2, by using Taylor series, sine phi approximates phi when phi is very small. In step 3, we reduce the impact of mode pass propagation. Finally, we got a relative phase change, which equal to the relative speed value. HandLock uses the speed and acceleration profile of hand movement to extract the features. The hand speed is proportional to the relative phase change theta. Therefore, we consider theta sub I as the relative speed of the hand movement. As the amplitude A prime is constant, we equate two acceleration readings to calculate the average acceleration. The same user takes a different amount of time to complete a gesture. We must therefore handle the changes in speed from the same users. HandLock employed resampling so that each identified gesture segment contains the same number of sample points. Given the gesture segment contains m data points, HandLock upsamples the theta sub I into n points if m is smaller than n, while it downsamples the seed I to n points if m is greater than n. Next, we multiply the time series data with m divided by n to normalize the value of the seed sub I. In this case, we will achieve the speed consistent. We observe that the phase speed profile of a given gesture from the same user are similar, but different from other users as shown in this figure. To extract features, HandLock further segment each speed and acceleration time series data into 20 small chunks to capture the speed and acceleration change for given user. This table lists the features we used. We extract tempo and spectral features from both the speed and acceleration time series. In total, we extract 256 features from both the speed and acceleration time series data for each microphone. HandLock adopts a supervised machine learning approach. Therefore, users need to provide gesture and training dataset. HandLock supports single and multiple users enrollment. Also, it supports multiple user and two different scenarios. The first one is enrollment of multiple user, same gesture. The second one is enrollment of multiple users, multiple gesture. Our Surrey model assumes that an adversary can interact with the victim's VA. The attacker then attempts to bypass HandLock by performing a hand gesture. The adversary could either know or doesn't know the victim's choosing gesture. Therefore, we consider the following attacks. The first one is random gestures. The attacker doesn't know the exact gesture performed by the victim, but attempts to auscultate the device by performing a random gesture. The second one is gesture mimicry. The attacker knows the exact gesture performed by the victim, for example, by observing the victim perform a gesture during an authentication session. The third one is a replay attack. The attacker places a nearby microphone to record the exact gesture performed by the victim and attempts to authenticate by the replay the recorded signal. In our evaluation, we implement HandLock using a series speaker. The board is equipped with a 6-microphone array, similar to how microphones are distributed inside an Amazon Echo Dot. We play continuous wave and record the 6-channel audio in 48 kHz with 5 gesture data. 45 participants were invited to interact with our prototype VA located inside our lab, where it emulates a smart home living room. We obtained a necessary IRB approval to collect data from participants. We summarize the data sets in the below table. In dataset 1, we collected 39 participants' data with 5 gestures. Each participant was asked to perform 60 instances for each gesture. We asked 10 participants to come back after 1 week and 1 month later, and collect another 230 samples for each gestures in dataset 2. In dataset 3, the participants were asked to perform random gesture, including the number digits and the alphabet. We have 6 additional participants as attacker to emulate victim gesture, dataset 4. To train a classification model, we randomly select 30 samples per gesture from each user as training set, and use the remaining 30 samples as test set. We randomly label 5 users' data as negative class and 34 user data as positive class. We use all the features in the feature vector to train our model. For each single user model, we have 30 positive instances and 150 negative instances as training set. We adopt the IDA-C upsampling approach to balance the training dataset. We do cross-user to compare the performance of 4 classifiers, including random forest, decision tree, support vector machine, and KNN. Random forest has the best average F-score across different textures. We therefore use random forest for the rest of our evaluation. As our training samples is imbalanced between positive and negative class, we adopt the popular upsampling approaches, IDA-C, to upsample the positive class instance. This table represents the overall performance of HandLock while using random forest with and without upsampling. After balance, the positive class, the false rejection rate decreased from 5.49% to 3.49%, and the F-score improved from 96.62% to 97.77%, while the average F-false acceptance rate decreased from 1.14% to 0.82%. To make HandLock user-friendly, the enrollment effort for a new user is a critical factor. We consider the performance of the classifier in the process of limited training samples. For this experiment, we vary the training set size from 10 samples to 40 samples in increments of 5 samples, and test the remaining samples. This figure shows the evaluation of the TPR with the increased training set size. The results show that as the training sample increase, the TPR also rises. However, we see that after 30 samples per class, the average TPR plateaus at around 96%. This suggests that we do not need too many training samples to construct a good predictive model. To study the impact of the number of users among which HandLock should discriminate, we consider two enrollment scenarios. The first scenario shows in the blue bar, different users enroll with the same single gesture. The second scenario shown in the red bar is different users enroll with different gestures. We repeat the same experiment for 4 different values of enrollment users, ranging from 2 users to 5 users. In these two scenarios, with the highest number of users as user equal to 5, because more than 96% of households in the US have less than 6 members. The red bar in this figure shows the TPR of scenario 2. The result shows that the TPR decreased more compared to the TPR found in scenario 1. However, the false acceptance rate for scenario 2 remains below 0.78% when have 5 users, as the negative class contains more information. To calculate the overall accuracy of a HandLock for each of the 5 gestures using training and testing samples from different days, we randomly choose 10 participants out of our 39 participants and collected additional data after 1 week and 1 month of their first visit. The left figure shows that the false rejection rate for 5 gestures for the 3 different time periods, where all models are trained on the data from the first visit. We can see that, in general, false rejection rate slightly increases. However, we can potentially, if we use high confidence samples and training data and rebuild the model periodically, we rebuild the model periodically, we adopt an incremental training approach. We see that false rejection reduced as shown in the right figure. Next, we evaluate the 3 attack settings. This plot shows the FAR in random gesture and gesture mimicry. The blue bar shows the average FAR of random gesture attack by performing random gestures such as number digits and alphabet characters. The average FAR of random gesture attack for each gesture is below 4%. The red bar depicts the average FAR of each gesture and mimicry attack setting. We observe that simple gestures such as Z and X are simple and more likely to be emulated, whereas the star gesture is more complex and less prone to emulation attack. To emulate a replay attack, we select a high-performance UMA 8 USB microphone arrays, which can record audio at 48 kHz sample rate. We place the microphone array close to the target VA at a distance of 20 cm, where a user was performing Z gesture. Next, we use a high-quality Sony loudspeaker to replay the recorded gesture session at 17 dB from a very close distance of 5 cm from the VA. We collected 60 replayed gesture samples and tested the samples using our original training model. HandLock achieves a FAR of 3.33%. This suggests that HandLock is robust against replay attacks. In order to analyze the usability of HandLock, we conducted a post-study survey from all participants. In total, 44 participants complete a survey at the end of the data collection process. We present our questions shown in this table. For example, we ask how easy was it to use our system? What would be an acceptable duration for authentication? Will you deploy HandLock on your voice assistant? In our result, 93.18% participants consider HandLock to be easy. 88.60% participants said they would deploy HandLock on their own VAs. Around 77.27% of participants felt HandLock is better than using a mobile app-based two-factor authentication. We also conducted the system Usability Scale questionnaire. HandLock obtained high SUS score compared with the app-based second-factor authentication. The reason is that the participants consider the system is device-free and easy to use. In general, participants find our approach to be more usable than an app-based second-factor authentication approach. Our survey also asked the participants for comments about the pros and cons of our approach. Following are some examples of the comments received. For example, participant 1 said, "I think range is a very important factor in terms of user experience. If I can unlock the assistant while sitting on a bed, that would be quite impactful." Participant 21 said, "More convenient than other authentication. The sound could be more pleasant if it's a tongue." Participant 28 said, "Very hygienic. No need for other equipment or network. Looking forward to it. I hope it can be put into the market and applied in practice as soon as possible." HandLock has two major limitations. The first one is simultaneous movement. We assume that at any given time, only a single user performs a predefined gesture. HandLock further assumes that while a user performs a predefined gesture, there are no background movements close to the device. If multiple users perform predefined gestures simultaneously, or if there are background movements close to the device, HandLock may not identify the user from the gesture. HandLock's accuracy, however, is not limited. It is not impacted significantly by the movements of people 3 meters away from the device, as we observe the signal interference is very weak from such distance. The second one is a distance limitation. In our setting, the user performs the gesture on top of the device from a distance of 5 to 30 centimeters. In future, we plan to explore augmented HandLock to enable user identification from gesture at a longer distance. To conclude our paper, first, we present a new modality of acoustic signal-based second-factor authentication system for smart home voice assistants when VAs enter the sensitive operation. Second, we design and implement HandLock using a commercial off-the-shelf speaker. We also develop a cue-based phase extraction technique to extract acoustic phase change caused by hand movements from raw acoustic signal. Third, we extensively evaluate HandLock using a large data set of over 15,000 gesture samples covering 5 common gestures and perform a comprehensive analysis of HandLock under various settings to showcase its accuracy, stability, resilience to attacks, and usability. Through our evaluation, we see that our approach can be used not only to determine the physical presence of a user, but also as an effective second-factor authentication method for VAs. We have published our dataset and coding source. If you are interested in our project, please visit our website or contact me. Thank you for watching.